All right, so let's kick things off here. We're with
Sweet.
Dave Brown, Rockdale teacher extraordinaire, who's been with Rockdale for years and years, and one of the students' favorites for years and years. If you don't recognize him, he's grown a beard over quarantine. And it's a pretty nice, that's a good beard. Like you know,
There, yeah.
he's from
Start
Vermont.
to twirl my mustache a little bit at the end.
Right, yeah. He's from Vermont, so he should be, I feel like in Vermont you grow a good beard, right?
Yeah, it's my first time trying it, so
There you go.
I'm
See,
learning.
it's in your blood. It's in your blood.
Get my flannel, get my beard.
Right. Well, we're
It's my hat.
not here just to talk about beards, though. We're here
No.
to talk about rhythmic improvisation on the drum set, but really, I guess rhythmic improvisation in general, because
Yeah, in general.
anything you do on a rhythm instrument, you can do on a melodic instrument, and there's many instruments that also cross both. Whereas
course.
like a guitar player is both a harmonic and melodic instrument and a rhythmic
Exactly.
instrument.
Yeah.
So
Even some drummers Terry Bozzio, for example, he has so many toms that he can tune them to different pitches and play melodies on the drum set, which is
right, yeah,
not super common unless you have a sizable budget, but you can think melodically on the drum set.
yeah. Or you know what, you could probably do that pretty cheap if you play the Craigslist eBay game and just find
Right.
some cheap drums and get in different
All
tunes.
mismatched colors.
Exactly. We used to call those Frankenstein kits.
Yeah.
When you'd Frankenstein a kit together with all your pieces that you have left over from dead kits.
I actually did that once in college, and it was hilarious. I had a black drum set and a blue drum set, so I called it my black and blue monster.
There you go.
It was like 11 drums and 15 cymbals. It was like
the Bruiser. That
was
should
fun.
be just called the Bruiser.
Bruiser. There you go. Even
There
better.
you go. You got to bring it back. Bring it back.
I should do that. I still have the blue kit in my basement, I think.
There you go. Nice.
Okay, so let me get started.
Cool.
Okay, so I really wanted to approach this from like the simplest way to start. So I want to assume that the person I'm teaching this to has no experience in maybe music or rhythm at all. And to think of rhythm as like a language, or any instrument you're learning is like learning a language. You're learning different shapes and sounds, whether it's written or just from hearing it, and you're putting those shapes and sounds together to form longer ideas, so you can hopefully speak or say something on that instrument, right? So, in the world of rhythm, we've got quarter notes, eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes. They're just a couple examples of the letters you're going to use to build your ideas out of. We call those subdivisions, which are smaller parts of a whole. So if I have a new student and I want them to practice something creative, we might start with just quarter notes. So I ask them, can you count to 4? This is a good place to start. Most people can. And just count to 4 and tap around the drum set. You don't have to worry about locking it into any specific pulse or beat yet. Just kind of 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mix up the order a little bit. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the idea.
Right.
Start with your quarter notes, and then you can build up to eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and get the idea. The next one I would do would probably be 16th notes. I would skip triplets because it's a little bit of a tough concept for newer students.
Yeah.
So stick with the 1s, 2s, and 4s and go from there. Then you can start combining those letters into words. Think of like 2 eighth notes and 4 16th notes. 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a. I'm starting to get a more interesting rhythm developing out of that. You can even split those onto different drums. 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a once you feel comfortable with something, an exercise like that, move on to playing one measure idea using all the subdivisions that you've practiced so far. So you could do like explore that one rhythm kind of texturally around the drum set. So to recap, you're learning simple subdivisions, and then the orchestration, how you play them around the drums on different textures. That should be kind of your first goal in exploring your own creativity. You're trying to build your vocabulary. So the more words and letters you learn, the more you can speak on the drum set. With like any language you learn, really.
Right.
Okay, so beyond
that's
that,
really good. I like the analogy you're doing with language, because it does. Music is a language, and everything that we're talking about with vocabulary is what kind of notes and how do you put those words together, right? And like you're taking your quarter notes and your eighth notes and your 16th notes, and those are just three different words that have a different sound to them and how you put them together. So we're just getting to the more vocabulary you have, the more fancier words you know, and then
for sure.
And then you sound fancier, right?
Yeah, like if I just write this note down, I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Like a quarter note.
Yep.
It looks weird and alien to a lot of people, but once you start learning what it represents and what sound it makes, it's just like learning your alphabet, right?
Right.
So
and that's why
it's no different than the shape A. If you've never seen this before, you wouldn't know what sound it makes, or it even falls in the whole spectrum of language, right?
Right. Look at Hebrew or Arabic, right? Or Mandarin or Japanese. Like those symbols, when you're not used to them, you're like, that just looks like some squiggly lines. It's like, no, it means something. It has a meaning, right?
Yeah, it's all about context.
I see Caden and Jude popped in too. What's going on, dudes? Remember, if you have any questions, you can either pop them in the chat or the Q&A, and I'm keeping an eye on those. So feel free to drop. Jude just dropped a hi in there. So
sweet. Yeah, I can see the chat pop up too.
Cool.
So I see hello from Jude. Hello, how's it going?
So good stuff. We're we now that everybody's in and we know what we're doing.
We were just talking about
your stream was choppy there for a little bit, but now it seems to have corrected itself. So
okay, good.
It looks like we're good. It may have been Mike. Who knows? With all this technology, who knows where it's getting held up? True. So, but it looks like we're good now.
Sweet. Yeah, we were just talking about rhythm and music as a language. So keeping that in mind as a starting point, you want to think about all of these exercises as you're learning a language. Learning your letters, your words, putting them into sentences, and building your vocabulary so you can say something on the drums. Getting back to that point, being aware of what you say is just like having a conversation, right?
Right.
It's not too often where you find yourself saying something that you didn't mean to say, or you don't remember what you just said when you're just talking to a friend.
Right.
Same thing on an instrument, not just the drums. Just be aware of what you're saying and try and remember that. So there's a couple exercises I like to do to try and strengthen that. I'm getting into like proper creative improv exercises now, and I've got like 7 of them. So each of them have like a guideline or rules to follow, but without being too kind of loose. So the first one, just taking any subdivision like we started with, playing like just eighth notes, for example. All eighth notes, I was putting in some rests whenever you heard some shape like I'm playing the upbeat of the eighth note, but they still all line up with the eighth note grid. So I'm still thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and the whole time. Nothing is outside of that grid.
And you were keeping like a quarter note with your hi-hat?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Hi-hat, foot, quarter notes. You can even play your eighth notes if you have that ability. Just to feel the grid a little bit more aggressive.
And if you don't have that ability yet, try it.
Yeah,
that's how you build new abilities. It's like, oh, I can't do it. Like my favorite thing, I know it's cliche, but what I say to all my students is, when they say I can't do it yet, right? You can't do it yet. I know it's cliche, but you can't do it yet. Like
it's true.
You weren't able to do anything.
Yeah.
You weren't able to walk at one point in your life, and now you can walk. Like that was it was.
Yeah, any skill that gives you a challenge, you should attack that more. You should seek out your uncomfortable.
Right. And I noticed you were doing some a lot of dynamic changes in there too, right? So I think
dynamics are huge.
That's a big part about playing creatively is like how hard are you going to hit the notes? Like that's what made that sound interesting and cool. If you just did that all at the same dynamics, it's just kind of banging around on drums, right?
Like, exactly.
But you made it very musical by adding dynamics that change. It's like me when I talk. If I talk very quietly or if I talk loud, it's gonna
you're gonna get certain emotions. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Peaks and valleys.
There's the language part again. Man, we're doing good at sticking on that language.
Exactly.
That language theme, we're killing it.
I like it. Thank you. I didn't even think about that. But how you choose to inflect certain words, emphasize certain words. Same thing when you're talking on the drums. Accents, swells, decrescendos. Yeah. They're all really effective. Or you just kind of play something and then out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You've got these, I don't know, abrupt stabs that are kind of effective.
Yeah. That was cool.
Or you just do that to scare whoever's around you. Make sure they're paying attention. Okay, next one. We've got a one-measure orchestration. I touched on this earlier as well. So you're going to take one rhythm and kind of explore how you're playing it around the drum set. So let's just do...
Cool.
So that could be any rhythm.
Like 1 and 3 and 4. Like 1
and
3 and 4. Yeah, 1 and 3 and 4. And that's
a lot of those rhythms
thing.
That are kind of super syncopated or end on like an unexpected place.
I like that. That was a cool one. And I think that again goes into our language thing. Say it before you play it too, right? Like whenever you hear rhythm that like Dave plays, or if a rhythm you hear anywhere, try and figure out how you translate that into words first before you take it to your instrument. It's just like I would say before you play it, it helps your brain to go like, okay, I've translated this from drums back to something that my brain can understand, and now I can take it and put it back into. It's almost like an ADDA converter going into a computer. Like, it takes analog sound, it turns it into digital sound, right? And then takes the digital information, runs it through some plugins, and then sends it back out as analog sound again. Like that's kind of what you're being when you translate music, is this like converter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And the opposite way too. If you're just jamming and playing, and then you stumble across an idea that you think sounds cool, or you're not exactly sure how that happened, and you take a step back and try and recreate it, that's just going to build your vocabulary too. So
right.
It works both ways.
Or you'll come up with something different trying to replicate it.
Yeah.
Something different that's cool. Like
That's the beauty of it. It's
like that. I mean, how new things get created is a lot of the time trying to replicate something else and screwing up. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, actually, look at how many like drugs, like when I talk about drugs, pharmaceuticals. Sorry, but both my parents are pharmacists.
Yeah.
We just call them drugs.
They are. Yeah.
But like prescription drugs, so many of those were an accident. Like,
Oh, I bet.
like they were trying to solve another problem, and then they go through all these clinical trials, and then they're like, "Whoa, it didn't work for that." But now,
Basically, you're talking some serious possibility when you're mixing all these different things together.
yeah, right. It's endless. It's endless.
Same thing on the drums. I mean, I'm just counting with my kick 3, 6, 8 different sounds, and then you mix all the different subdivisions you have, all the different kind of syncopated rhythms you can come up with.
The dynamics.
Literally, unlimited possibilities. Dynamics, stickings. I didn't even talk about that yet, but I will.
Where you hit on the drum, right? Well, like each one of the drums, like and cymbals has a different like. I know Keaton.
Oh, so true.
Keaton, our other drum teacher, says like you don't have a good cymbal. I can't remember the number that he says, but he was like, you don't have a good cymbal if you can't get like 12 sounds out of it. Like and you know, like he's it's the point is that like a good piece of equipment gives you more options.
Yeah, I wish I had an actual ride, but like obviously, I don't know if you can see my ride cymbal here. So like even on the E kit, like there's the bell, the body, and then like the edge.
Right.
It activates. So I only really have 3 sounds on here. If I want to get really weird, I could hit the metal on top. I could hit the stand that it's on. And you could do that when you're playing a solo. Like there's no rule there. But you could do like this zing sound if you have an actual acoustic.
Yeah, or like going around the cymbal. I've done that too. Like you get weird.
Yeah. But that's cool about the drums. You can explore texturally a little bit more than maybe some instruments. Like on guitar, you've got some vibrato and you can bend and pinch harmonics and harmonics, but yeah, we could play with our hands. You could push the head in to stretch it and do.
Yep.
Cross stick, clicker sticks. We've got a lot of different textures to work with too.
Yeah. Snares on, snares off.
Yep. Make a timbali out of it, muffle it, mute it, put some tape on it.
Yeah.
You know.
But that's all the physical stuff. We'll get back.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Actual concept-wise, okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay. This next one is the exercise where you're trying to strengthen your awareness. I call it listen and repeat. You can think of it as like copycat. So you're trying to play copycat with yourself. So the goal is to play one measure idea and then remember how you played it and play it back exactly the same way.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just going to start simple. Let's say you've never played drums and this is your first drum lesson or your first lesson in general. Again, you're counting quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm listening and I'm aware of the path that I'm taking and I'm going to try and play it exactly the same way. Floor, high, mid, mid.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then you just continue to loop that. Cool, so that's quarter notes. Let's go a little bit up in difficulty. Let's just do 8th notes, 16th notes. that one got me. Nice.
No, I like it because it's like a game of memory.
Yeah.
Yourself, or like a game, or like horse or pig, right? Like where like you have to, and that would be a good way to actually maybe make your practice horse. Once you get done horse, then like you're done, like and you want to keep going longer. Like
what I just did there, what I often find throws me off is I'll play something, I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, and then I don't remember the next kind of half of the measure that I play. My brain will kind of focus on the first half of the measure that I was like, oh, that's interesting, I should remember that for later. And then as I'm playing my next half of the measure, that's just instantly in together.
Right.
You want to be aware of, you want to focus on what you just played and think of the next part that you're playing.
This would be a really cool exercise too to do, like in lesson. I'm sure you do this in lesson where you do it like as a call and response game, where like and then keep on shortening the amount of time you have in between. So like the first time you did it, like I could go like 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4. Then you get a full measure to start, so it gives you time to think about it.
Right.
And then eventually I go 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4. Then you have to go 1 and 2 E and a 3 and 4. Like that should be what you'd build up to. So do this. I mean, that could be a fun way to do this as a game with one of your friends too. Like you could do this over Zoom.
You don't have to worry about latency for this one either. You're just listening. You're kind of going back and forth.
Right. I'm using that in my drum lesson today. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. I use it a lot with my younger students too, even out of context of time, just trying to get an idea of how good their ear is.
Right.
So I'll just be like, see if you can copy me back.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of, play the game back and forth a little bit just to strengthen their ear. Hold on, I got some flashings down here on chat.
Oh, nothing to it. I'll pop in if there's anything.
All right, sweet.
Jude was talking about how Tom Morello does like DJ scratching on his guitar, like for textures.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
I mean, we've talked about that with some of our other guitar lesson stuff, is like the guitar clinics.
Or like putting the guitar from the amp to get feedback.
Yeah, right. That's another one. Oh, we should talk. That could be. We should do a feedback. Like just like the weird effects on guitars.
Yeah, guitar effects.
That'd be fun.
I wish I could do that with my drums. You can't pick up the whole kit.
Yeah, no, you could do that. There's other ways to get creative with that.
There's this great drummer named Eric Improda. He plays for a band called Night Verses, but he's got this microphone set up above his ride where he'll like hit the ride, spin it, and then he's got a distortion pedal. So he's distorting the way the ride kind of warbles, and it produces this really eerie kind of sound. He has a distortion pedal kind of microphone he can use on whatever part of his drum set, but he'll be doing that with his one hand and then kind of playing with his feet in his other hand and playing with the distortion pedal, so it's really kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll find a link and send it out so you can share it.
I could see like a wah-wah pedal being really cool too, because you could sweep through the frequencies of playing drums, so you could technically like play a beat and then like with the wah-wah pedal just be like whoosh, like almost using it like a phaser.
Maybe that's what he was doing. I don't know. It sounded kind of phasery, but it sounded like maybe he had a distortion effect.
He probably has a bunch of. I mean, I'm sure if he hooked up one, he was like, "Oh, that was sick. I'm gonna hook up all of them." Yeah, right. So,
but again, that's more on the experimental side of things. Just
right.
Okay, next we've got one of my favorites. It's another good one for kind of beginner students, intermediate. This concept of an anchor. So an anchor is a short rhythmic motif that you're going to periodically come back to. Yeah. So let's do 2 measures, and the anchor is just going to be 2 hits on our snare and floor tom. So you can hit those on one end, and then you've got the rest of the time to kind of improvise and then come back to it.
Cool. Love that one.
So the listener knows where you are in the form, in the phrase. They can latch onto something familiar. Repeating ideas is really good for the listener. They're like, "Oh, I've heard that. That's cool."
No, you
coming back to that idea.
I think that's a love. I love that one too because that one's very musical. Like that when you see actually played. I mean, you see this with bands all the time where like you'll do hits, right? Where it's like bum bum, bum bum bum,
Exactly.
bum bum, and that hit is that repeating thing, and everybody else, it's kind of like a trading solos kind of move.
Good Times, Bad Times opens up with that exact same thing,
Right.
Just,
Bum bum dun dun. Exactly. Good Times, Bad Times, and like a lot of funk music does those hits too, right? Like funk does those like bum bum bum. Dun, 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 like something syncopated. Or actually, I was thinking New Orleans jazz. It happens all the time in New Orleans jazz, where they do hits and then trade solos.
Yeah, check out Galactic.
Oh yes, I that's who I was thinking of when. Nice. Oh, dude, check out Galactic if you haven't listened to.
Lettuce also came out with a new album where they do that pretty much exact same thing. I think that's why it stuck in my head because I think it might be the first song off their new album, but yeah, they've got these hits, bum bum, and then the drum beats going through the whole thing though, so it's not quite like a solo.
Right.
But it's an example of the figure hits that the whole band is playing.
Right.
Okay, cool. So that's the anchor. And you can do any rhythm to start off. It could be one beat. It could be two beats. But yeah, the point of that exercise is repetition and trying to create something familiar for the listener.
Nice.
On to the next one. This one's just more of like a groove-based exercise. So if you're taking like an eighth note rock beat, but improvising what you're doing in the kick. So you can just starting very simple. The first eighth note beat I teach anybody, kick, snare, cool. And then maybe after a couple bars you switch up the kick. And then again. So you're locking the beat down, you're thinking about what kick pattern you're playing, and then what kick pattern you're going to be playing. So it's like you're going from the verse of a song, maybe into the chorus. You could even switch to the ride, and then back to the hi-hat for each groove. Play one groove over here for 4 bars, then switch to your ride with a new kick pattern for 4 bars to kind of emulate that verse, chorus transition. So that's a fun one. I like to do that one with like a play-along track or a drumless track. There's lots of good drumless tracks out there.
Oh, cool.
For drummers to practice to specifically. But there's play-along tracks for any instrument,
Yeah,
tracks.
Do you just YouTube search those usually, or where do you usually find those?
Yeah, YouTube. I would search like drumless backing track, or even on Apple Music, which I use most commonly to play songs off of. They add some stuff. And
maybe you'll just search a genre too. Like, would you do? Like,
you can even search like a specific BPM, beats per minute.
Okay. Yeah. So you can use your tempo, or like if you said like drumless backing track funk, or drumless backing track metal, like you probably get some.
Yeah, I'm doing a metal one with a couple students right now.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. That's another. See, these clinics are just as good for the other teachers as it is because I'm like, oh, that's a good thing I don't do with my students. That like, I think
we use those tracks as like glorified metronomes for whatever you're working on, or you can write your own drum parts to songs that don't have drum parts. So and come up with their own ideas.
More fun than listening to a metronome click.
Yeah, I would say so.
Over and over and over and over and over again.
There's benefits to both, but I would prefer to.
No, there's totally benefits. Yeah, they're like like I call the metronome the frenemy, right?
Yeah,
it's your frenemy.
It was a long frenemy for a while with me.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that last time a little bit, right? Playing the click on off beats.
Yeah. And Keaton did a whole.
Do that more often,
Keaton did a whole thing on the metronome, which was cool. I need to dig into those exercises again, but
Yeah.
There's like you and Keaton have been killing on these
Thanks. Thank
these
you.
clinics.
Just to do another example of this one, say you're doing the call and response thing, you could do one bar of a kick pattern and then just try and replicate it again. I'll play it a little bit faster and using 16th notes. Something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, get as spicy as you want with it. Okay, let's move on to really kind of the last one I have. There's a seventh one, but it's a little bit different. Practicing over or improvising over an ostinato. An ostinato is just any repeating rhythm that kind of cycles over and over again. What I had been doing with my left foot is technically an ostinato. So I'm just playing quarter notes, and then I'm using that as my pulse, my metronome. But let's get a little bit trickier with it. You could play a march, so your feet back and forth. You could play a rhythm like...
That's cool.
like that.
So more syncopated on the other one.
Yeah, some sort of ostinato that's rhythmic. Or you could even do it in your hand too. Like, one that I find really tricky is just quarter notes in your left hand, but try not to break that while you're playing around it with your other hand. Especially when you get the kick in there, and then you're like, how is everything stacking up and lining up together?
Yeah. That's a really good one too.
So you can
That's a really great one too, because how often do you have, especially with my younger drummers, when I'm doing something that's like the quarter note is on the snare drums and they're so used to playing backbeat, right? That when you say, like, oh, now you're playing all the downbeats, and they're like, wait, like I'm used to 2 and 4. Now you want me 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's like, yeah, I know you have to learn how to.
Get a little simpler with it too.
Great to learn something, but also repetition sometimes gets you stuck, right? So,
yeah, say you have a much younger student and you're just doing quarter notes. If they can just practice the ands in the other hand.
yeah. Now that could be a really good one, and that could be a really good one to set a metronome up for your left hand to follow, right?
Exactly.
So that you can make sure it's staying. It's staying.
I would probably set that to 8th note, so you're hearing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
That would be your metronome,
Right.
right? And then the last one is just kind of don't think about anything, and you're just kind of free-forming it. Right?
Yes.
So you're out of context of the beat, of strict rhythm. You're just kind of making noises and sounds on the drum set.
Yeah.
Just kind of think of it as like speaking gibberish, but you're listening to the sounds you're making, right?
Right. Well, and this is like you're the performance really of everything you just did. Also, right? It's because improvisation. We talked a lot about this in the improv workshops that I have with Erica that we talked about. Is like improvisation isn't just making up everything off the top of your head. It's doing what you already know how to do, just putting it together off of the top of your head. Like it's not you're not starting out. Think of it as like
Exactly.
like in creative writing, like a good creative writing exercise is just to sit down and write without borders, without a time limit, without anything. Stream of consciousness, right? You still are writing words that you already know. You're not just writing like blaggy goodibi dabu doops. Like you're not just writing gibberish. Like you're writing words that you already use. It's just that you're not filtering your thoughts. And even there's no such thing as unfiltered thoughts, really. Like you're just minimizing the filter on your thoughts to let as much come through, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a more of an advanced concept too, even on like your instrument. You've got to be really confident with, you know, your subdivisions, your sense of time, your inner metronome.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain amount of vocabulary to even be able to start speaking like that. But once you get there, it's super fun, and you can just sit down and just kind of the time will just melt away, you know.
And to be completely honest, improvisation on certain instruments terrifies me. Like when somebody says, like for me, like, you know, piano, like I started as a guitar player and as a drummer. I play mainly keyboard and piano now, but I play them like a guitar player. I play it like a guitar player and a drummer. Like that's where my foundation is. So I play them thinking like a drummer or a guitar player. So when people are like, all right, take a solo on piano, I'm like, this is going to sound like a guitar player taking a solo on piano. And sometimes that's really cool. Some people are like, whoa, that's not how I would have approached it.
Yeah.
But like, if you're looking for like a piano solo, I'm probably not your guy for that. Like I'm all like, I can try, I'll try and learn, but it's more of me like, oh, I have to learn how to play piano like that. And but this is something I would get better at if I practiced it more. I just don't practice improvisation on piano because it's not my cup of tea as much.
Yeah,
so,
maybe you don't need that skill in your back pocket as often as you need other skills. So
as a songwriter, improvisation doesn't necessarily have to be a big part. Like I have great improvisers in my band that, like, when it comes to improvisation, I go like, take it away, Will.
Yeah.
Take it away, Mike.
I don't practice improvisation that often either. I don't use it in my band when I'm playing in the cover band, obviously, that much. Maybe I'll get like a 4-bar solo thing, but it's really, in that situation, it's more just something flashy and big and fast. It's not anything where I need to be super creative, you know?
Right. When you've only got 4 bars, you got to come with the heat, right?
Yeah. Just something flashy and whatever.
Yeah. That's what people want that drum
exercise. A lot of these are just great to just explore and learn about your own vocabulary and just how comfortable you are on the drum set. One of the biggest things that helped me a lot was just mobility, just the moving around the kit and not stumbling over yourself and not getting your sticks caught under cymbals. That's what a lot of this is really valuable for in any situation.
Yeah.
Just your overall comfort and knowledge of the drum set. Yeah.
I used to do this all the time when I was when I was in middle school, high school drummer. I used to just go to the basement and a lot of my practice was just playing along to albums. Like I would do that a lot. And then at the end, I would just kind of play, right? And really, that's when I probably made the most progress, is when I was just playing and doing stuff outside of the box, because you're teaching your body and your brain to do things that is not necessarily conventional. You know, when you're learning an album, you're copying somebody else. You're always trying to emulate what the drummer already is doing and match up to it. This free-formed playing is like, you're not copying anybody. You're you. Like, what do you?
It's really valuable.
Yeah.
Just to sit down and play, say what you already know on the drums, and then you'll stumble over ideas that you want to try and recreate or come up with something new based on what you heard yourself just play. It's kind of cool. Yeah. When you're listening and playing like that. Also, if you're just jamming to records, some of that stuff's going to stick subconsciously, and if you do like a free-form thing immediately afterwards, you'll maybe recognize some of the stuff you heard in those tracks is coming through.
Yeah.
In your free play.
Yeah. Well, if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A. I think the best way to end this, though, while you guys are asking any questions, is for Dave to do like a minute or two improv.
Cool.
And
did I keep my angle like down here?
Yeah, sure. That'd be cool.
I don't know what's better, to see the Jones or see my beard. All right, cool. Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day. Cool.
Yeah, no, what I really loved about that was like you actually, it was very musical, and it wasn't just a ton of flash, right?
Yeah.
Which I think like that's
Try not
where
to do that.
I know, and that was super like that was great that you do because that's the trap most people fall into when they say, "Give me a solo, give me an improv." Is like they want to impress by giving you the flash. And
Right.
like Dave just showed like a lot of restraint and patience and like musical maturity to be like, no, I'm going to show you a bunch of syncopation that's all going to be solid and you know, it's just a very good. I mean, it had me bopping like in parts, and then like
Yeah, thank you.
changed feels, and it went like all different. Went jazzy for that little part. There was the cool syncopations that were happening, like that
Yeah, so
kind of Bo Diddley.
Even throughout the whole thing, as I was trying to be aware of it, at some parts in your improvising, you might feel like it's flatlining, so you want to either kick up the dynamics or kick up like the rate of speed you're playing stuff, so you go faster, and then you can bring it down. Again, it's all about like peaks and valleys. Yeah, there were a couple times in there where I thought I was playing the same rhythm over and over again. I felt that was getting stale, so then you might want to switch it up. So
Right.
listen and be aware, and if you're doing anything too much or not enough,
Right.
make a judgment call in the moment and kind of adapt and see what else you can do.
And that's a great point. I think to also remember is that the listener is always behind where you are, right?
Yeah.
Because you're creating. So if you feel like it's getting stale, nobody else has probably felt that yet.
Right.
So you're going to make the switch before they feel that, just because they're in the moment too, but their moment is just a little bit behind your moment because you're creating it. Right.
Totally.
Well, thanks, Dave. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
I mean, you got a rock and roll ham from from Steve.
Sweet.
And thanks, Caden and Jude, and anybody on Facebook Live. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the questions there. Trying to stay more in this world rather than pay attention to 4 different things all over the place. But do get in. You can get on our email list if you want to join the discussion with us. But
sure.
Thank you so much, Dave. And
yeah, I just wanted to say, have fun exploring the drum set and saying some cool things.
And get weird.
Yeah, get weird with it.
Get weird with it. All right, dudes.
All right, I'll say goodbye. Have a nice day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Later.